The interest of Sane in real estate began with humble roots. Growing up in a modest family, he couldn't afford to attend university and instead pursued a career in construction. With a strong work ethic and a talent for craftsmanship, Sane thrived in the industry and quickly recognized the potential of real estate investment. His first renovation project began when he noticed a dilapidated condominium at a work site. Intrigued, he purchased and restored it, sparking his passion for buying, renovating, and selling properties. The early years were challenging. Sane worked long hours managing multiple projects while learning about the real estate industry. His dedication paid off, earning him a reputation for transforming neglected properties into valuable homes. This success brought him financial stability, allowing him to take on larger projects and eventually become a self-made millionaire. Despite his success, Sane remained grounded, always seeking the next opportunity. He loved every part of the process, from purchasing to selling, and took pride in finding great deals and selling properties at a profit, demonstrating his keen eye for value. At the age of 52, after more than 30 years of renovations, Sane became a master of his craft. He lived mortgage-free in a beautifully restored home that he had purchased at a great price. His renovations doubled the property's value, giving him financial freedom to pursue future ventures. Sane's entry into real estate was almost accidental. While working in an area with affordable condominiums, he noticed one in poor condition with a for sale sign. After speaking with the real estate agent, he learned the two-bedroom unit was severely damaged and priced at $50,000, while similar units sold for $225,000. Sane estimated he could renovate it for $25,000 to $30,000, but he didn't have the full $50,000. With help, he secured a construction loan after navigating a lengthy approval process and became the proud owner of his first real estate investment. Since Sane had a full-time job, he could only work on the condominium in his free time, which slowed renovations. He hired workers, but their poor quality work required him to fix their mistakes, costing him time and money. To speed things up, Sane took 2 weeks off, working 12-hour days, including weekends, to finish the project. He faced unexpected problems, like replacing the entire air conditioning system, which added thousands to his expenses. Sane listed the condominium before renovations were complete, and a neighbor offered to buy it for his mother. Sane let the buyer choose the colors and carpeting. When finished, the unit featured new tiles, hardwood floors, cabinets, appliances, and an air conditioning system. The buyer agreed to the $250,000 asking price. Sane had invested $40,000 in the renovation, including professional work of high quality. After closing costs and realtor commissions, he earned a $35,000 profit in 3 months. Satisfied with his first investment, Sane gained valuable lessons for future projects. Sane attended real estate seminars and learned about hard money lenders who offered quick renovation loans at high interest rates. Though expensive, these loans were processed faster than traditional bank loans. To streamline his work, Sane became a licensed real estate agent, gaining access to the multiple listing service, MLS, which allowed him to find and bid on properties independently. He also earned commissions for both buying and selling properties. Over the years, Sane bought, renovated, and sold numerous properties, starting with condominiums and gradually moving to larger homes. By saving his profits, he eventually purchased homes outright, speeding up transactions and securing better deals from motivated sellers. Sane outsourced renovations to a trusted contractor, focusing solely on finding and acquiring properties. At one point, he managed several homes in different stages of renovation. By then, Sane had accumulated a net worth of over $1 million, mostly in cash, and consistently earned a 6-figure income. Despite his wealth, he lived modestly, with few people knowing his true financial status. 5 years after becoming a prominent figure in real estate, Sane married Breeze Pand, a beautiful woman from a wealthy family. Initially, her family noted his lack of formal education but respected his success and hard work. The couple had 3 daughters, Andrea, Angelica, and Ashley, who were all grown with children of their own. The family maintained a tradition of gathering for holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving, although only Andrea lived nearby. Breeze worked as a materials manager for a manufacturing company, ensuring resources were ordered and available on time. She coordinated with various suppliers and contractors and excelled in her job, which she enjoyed. One Friday, Sane closed a deal on a middle-class home in a working-class neighborhood. The previous owners, an elderly couple, needed to sell quickly after the husband passed away. Their children, who lived 100 miles away, planned to move their mother to a nursing home. They needed to sell the house, which was in poor condition and had been slow to sell. A fellow real estate agent recommended Sane as an interested buyer for a renovation project. Sane inspected the house and found that the foundation, roof, electrical system, and HVAC needed work. The yard was neglected, and the entryway had visible cracks. The house was still full of furniture and kitchen utensils, with the garage packed with catering equipment, suggesting the couple may have run a business. The children were aware that similar houses were valued at $315,000, but Sane offered $250,000, explaining that at least $50,000 in renovations would be necessary. Since the house was fully paid off, the children agreed to split the proceeds. The deal closed the following Friday, and Sane received the keys at 3:30 p.m. Instead of going to his office, he drove straight home, intending to celebrate with Breeze. Noticing her car already in the garage, which was unusual, he entered the house but didn't receive any greeting. After pouring himself 2 drinks of rum, Sane heard the shower running upstairs. When he entered the bedroom, he saw cocktail dresses, lingerie, high heels, and fishnet stockings laid out. Breeze's perfume and red lipstick were on the vanity table. Confused, Sane sat down and waited. When Breeze came out of the shower wrapped in a towel, she didn't notice him. She began applying makeup and styling her hair into voluminous curls, her nails painted a bright red. "What's going on?" Sane asked calmly. Breeze jumped, letting out a small gasp. "Sane, you scared me. I didn't know you were home. I closed the deal early and decided to come back instead of heading to the office," Sane explained. "I thought I'd take you out to celebrate, but it seems you already have plans. So, what's going on?" "Yes, darling," Breeze replied. "I'm going out to dinner with a friend." Sane stayed calm but pressed further. "Judging by the outfit you've laid out, this isn't just a friend. You're going out with a man, aren't you? And I see dancing shoes, so you're going dancing too." "Yes, darling," she admitted. "We thought we'd go dancing to make the night more enjoyable." "Who is this friend?" Sane asked. "Oh, his name is Harvey Ranko. He's a sales representative for the company we buy paper from. He comes to town once a month, and we've had lunch a couple of times. He's very nice, polite, and attentive," Breeze added quickly. "It's not really a date, just dinner and chatting with a friend." Sane, sensing her evasiveness, changed tactics. "Which dress are you going to wear?" "I'm not sure. Maybe you can help me decide. The red one will definitely catch a man's eye, though it's a bit flashy for a first date." "But no man can resist a sexy black cocktail dress," Sane commented. "You haven't dressed up like this for me in a long time. What's so special about tonight?" "It's black," Breeze replied, sidestepping his question. Sane realized it had been ages since she had dressed up like this for him. He hadn't taken her dancing in a long time, their routine reduced to simple dinners at places like Red Lobster or TGI Fridays after closing deals. Feeling unsettled, Sane excused himself to pour another drink. As he sipped his rum, he considered the situation. Breeze was clearly preparing for a date, despite trying to frame it as just dinner with a friend. Her elaborate preparations suggested otherwise, and Sane wondered why she thought he would accept this so easily. When he returned, Breeze was putting on thigh-high stockings. "These are new, aren't they?" Sane asked. "Yes, I bought them today to match my dress," she replied. It's been a long time since you dressed up like this for me, Sane said. Why all this effort for a random friend? I just wanted to look nice, Breeze responded, trying to sound casual but failing to convince him. You know, with that dress, you don't even need a bra, Sane remarked. Just be careful not to spill out when you lean forward. Good point, Breeze said. I'll go without a bra and be careful, just as you said. Sane realized that Breeze assumed he was fine with her evening plans. She even started involving him more in her preparations, seemingly believing he might enjoy the idea of her going out with another man. But she was wrong. I was thinking of wearing my diamond necklace and earrings. What do you think? She asked. Stick with black to match the dress, Sane suggested. What about the black sapphire pendant? It'll hang perfectly between your collarbones, and the matching earrings will complete the look. Breeze agreed, pleased with his suggestion. While Sane appeared composed on the outside, he was seething inside. After Breeze slipped into her black cocktail dress, she asked Sane to zip it up for her. She admired herself in the mirror, showing off her leg as she packed her dancing shoes into her bag. Before leaving, Breeze asked Sane to bring her half a glass of spiced rum, saying she felt nervous. Sane sensed she wanted to leave him alone in the room for a moment. Of course, it's going to be an exciting night for you, Sane said as he left the room with the door ajar. When he glanced back, he saw Breeze quickly grabbing something from her bedside table and slipping it into her bag. Though he didn't see exactly what it was, he had a strong suspicion. He went downstairs, poured her rum, and poured himself a double. When he returned, Breeze was seated at her vanity. Thank you, darling, she said, sipping her drink. I've never seen you look so beautiful and alluring, Sane remarked. Thank you, Breeze replied. I'm glad you understand. I promise to make it up to you, maybe soon we can dress up, go out for dinner, see a show, and then come home for a passionate night together. We'll see, Sane responded indifferently. Breeze stood up, saying, I have to go. I don't want to be late. When they reached the front door, Sane asked, before you leave, can I take some photos of you? I'd love that, Breeze said, posing for the camera. Sane directed her to stand by the door, turning sideways like a model. He took a few pictures and then added, now, lean forward, but be careful not to spill out of your dress. Lift the hem a little so I can see more of your legs and the top of your stockings. Breeze, feeling overly confident, complied with his requests for more photos. After checking her watch, she said, I really need to go. Don't wait up. Don't worry, I won't, Sane replied calmly. Before leaving, Breeze asked, kiss me and wish me a good night. She leaned in, expecting a kiss on the cheek to avoid smudging her lipstick. Instead, Sane delivered a sharp slap to her right cheek. Breeze stepped back, shocked and in pain, her expression full of disbelief. Sane, why? She asked. Sane moved closer. Did you really think I'd be okay with my wife going on a date dressed like this? Confused, Breeze stammered, but you seemed fine with it. You even helped. Sane delivered another slap to her other cheek, equally hard. Now frightened, Breeze froze in place. In what world would I tolerate such disrespect? Sane demanded. Did you really think I'd let you do this? Tears began to well up in Breeze's eyes. It was just a dinner, she sobbed. Sane grabbed her bag and found a packet of condoms. You took these when I went downstairs, didn't you? Breeze tried to explain. They were just in case, I wasn't planning to use them. Barely containing his emotions, Sane responded harshly, you've misunderstood my tolerance. Breeze pleaded for forgiveness, offering to cancel her plans, but Sane didn't budge. Go ahead and leave, he warned, shoving her coat and bag into her hands. Get out now. Don't come back until tomorrow. He pushed her out the door, took her house key and garage remote, and shoved them into his pocket. Go stay with Andrea or find a hotel, I don't care, he said. Breeze, realizing how serious he was, left in tears. Sane watched her drive away, then went back inside, noticing the dancing shoes Breeze had left behind. You won't be needing these tonight, he thought, feeling exhausted. He poured himself another drink and slumped into a chair, overwhelmed by a mix of emotions, anger, humiliation, and sadness. Tears began to fall as he realized he needed to take action. He briefly considered throwing out her belongings but realized it would take too long. As he sat in his chair, a simpler solution came to mind. That same day, he had purchased a fully furnished house with utilities and Wi-Fi included. Smiling to himself, Sane decided to move out. He packed essentials, including clothes, his laptop, and other equipment, into 2 suitcases and was ready to leave by 11 p.m. He placed the house key and garage remote on the kitchen table and drove silently to his new home, just 45 minutes away. When he arrived at the dark cul-de-sac, he parked by the side entrance and walked in. The house was clean but needed repairs. As he explored the rooms, he took note of what needed improvement: kitchen cabinets, floors, appliances, and light fixtures. Unlike his usual quick renovations, he planned to take his time since he intended to live there for a while. Sane unloaded his car, noticing that half the storage space was still occupied by the previous owner's belongings. The family had taken only sentimental items, leaving behind furniture and an old computer in the former office. He set up his laptop in that space. Feeling the effects of his drinks, he took some sheets from the closet, made the bed, and fell asleep in his shorts. The next morning, he woke early as sunlight flooded the room, having forgotten to close the curtains. With a slight hangover, he showered, dressed casually, and prepared coffee using the old coffee maker left by the previous owners. He found a jar of coffee in the pantry and was satisfied with the gas stove, despite its age. While sipping his coffee, he explored the kitchen, discovering it was stocked with pots, pans, utensils, glassware, and 2 sets of dishes. He later learned the previous owner had inherited the dishes from her mother and mother-in-law. Sane made a simple breakfast, cleaned up, and then inspected the garage, which was full of catering equipment likely belonging to the former owner, who had run a catering business. The backyard had a pleasant semi-enclosed space with hanging plants and outdoor lamps. Although it needed some fixing up, there was a rusty barbecue grill in the corner that Sane planned to replace. After inspecting the property, Sane created a renovation plan. He organized a sale to get rid of the leftover items, donating or discarding whatever didn't sell. He also noted that the garden was overgrown, the brick flower beds were cracked, and the driveway needed repairs. The concrete block walls separating the property were also damaged. Sane called his contractor, Cesar Quintero, to discuss the renovations. While waiting for Cesar, he met his first neighbor, Leah, a Vietnamese widow who lived with her elderly mother. Leah offered to introduce Sane to the neighborhood, which he appreciated. When Cesar arrived, he and Sane walked through the house, noting all the necessary work. Cesar remarked that the house had the least curb appeal on the street, and they agreed it needed significant exterior improvements. As they walked along the street, they noticed that other houses also required repairs. After planning the renovations, Cesar left, and Sane was alone again. He checked his phone and saw several missed calls, most of them from his wife, starting around 2 p.m., likely when she had returned home. Her voicemail messages were filled with apologies and pleas for forgiveness, begging him to speak with her and expressing regret for disappointing him. The last message was from his daughter, Andrea, who asked what he had done to her mother. She mentioned that her mother told her Sane had moved out and even thrown her out. Andrea urged him to return home and work things out. Sane called Andrea back. She confronted him, but he asked if her mother had told her why he had left. When Andrea said it couldn't have been that bad, Sane explained that her mother had effectively left him first. He asked Andrea to get the full truth from her mother before they spoke again. Andrea agreed, mentioning that her mother was staying with them for a few days. For the next 3 days, Sane heard nothing from Andrea. During that time, Cesar began working on the garden, fixing the walls with decorative caps without being asked. Sane also hired Cesar's team to repair the driveway and apply protective coatings. Although the cost was significant, Sane felt it was worth it for the increased property value. Sane organized a sale to get rid of the remaining clutter in the house, and the event was a success. While cleaning up afterward, Andrea called. "Dad, we need to meet." "There's more you don't know," she said. Sane replied, "I know what I saw." Andrea insisted, saying her mother had told her everything and that she didn't blame Sane for his actions. She even admitted to reprimanding her mother for how she had treated him. Andrea offered to meet with Sane to share more details, which she said were important. Sane, sensing her emotional distress, agreed to meet at TGI Fridays near his house the next morning at 11 a.m. They ended the call with an exchange of "I love you." The house renovations continued. Sane ordered new windows since many of the current ones were painted shut and couldn't be opened. He also ordered French doors with additional screen doors for the family room and the master bedroom. Sane arrived at TGI Fridays exactly at 11 a.m. His daughter was already waiting in the lobby. They hugged and requested a corner table. Both ordered coffee, and since the restaurant wasn't busy at that hour, they had privacy. Sane got straight to the point. "What do you want to talk about, Andrea? If this is about what I did after your mother dressed up for her big date, I don't regret it. I won't tolerate such disrespect, especially from my wife." "Dad," Andrea began, "this is more serious than you think. You're not going to like what I have to say, not at all. But first, you need to know that Mom is devastated. She's so sorry. She can't stop crying and feels terrible about hurting you. She couldn't stay with us past the weekend because she had to go back to work. I visited her twice. She just goes to work, struggles to get through the day, and then comes home to an empty house. I feel nothing for her after what she did," Sane replied. Andrea pulled 2 items from her large handbag, a manila envelope and a smaller letter-sized one. "Dad," Andrea said, holding up the smaller envelope, "this is Mom's apology letter. She knows you don't want to talk to her, and even if you did, she's not sure she could face you. She's so ashamed. I'm not forcing you to read it, you can throw it away if you want, but here it is. Maybe you'll read it later." "What's in the big envelope?" Sane asked. "This is a detailed account of Mom's relationship with the guy she went on a date with. It's written precisely at my request." "Why should I read it?" Sane asked. "I don't care. It's not for you, Dad. It's for HR at Mom's work. And why would they care what Mom did in her free time with someone who's not from her company?" Sane asked. "Dad," Andrea said, taking Sane's hands with a sad look, "I need to tell you what happened after you threw Mom out. It's going to hurt, but it's better you hear it from me." "Go on," Sane said. Andrea sighed. "When Mom complained about the distance, you told her to find a motel or a hotel, right?" "Correct," Sane said. "Mom was hurt, not just from the slaps but because she realized how deeply she'd let you down. No matter how angry you seemed, she knew she had hurt you profoundly. She was confused too. One moment, you were helping her get ready for a date, which was out of character for you, and the next, you slapped and scolded her." "I didn't yell," Sane interrupted. "I told her firmly that I thought she planned to betray me." "She says she never intended to sleep with him," Andrea replied. "But I know, Dad, she took protection from your bedside table." Sane stayed silent, his face tense. When Mom left, she was confused and regretful. She decided to meet with the salesman as planned, to tell him it was over, and then she was going to stay at my house that night. At that point, she still thought he was a friend. Andrea continued, "When she arrived at the hotel, she went straight to the ladies' room. Her makeup was a mess, and her cheeks were still red and swollen. After freshening up, she went into the restaurant where her date, Harvey, was already seated. She didn't greet him with a hug or a kiss, and he immediately knew something was wrong. She got straight to the point, but before she could finish, she started crying. Harvey tried to comfort her, hugging her and saying everything would be fine. He ordered her a glass of wine to calm her down, and she drank it in one gulp on an empty stomach. Harvey told her not to worry about their relationship and said he understood, but he hinted that you were too controlling. The wine began to relax Mom, and she kept drinking. Soon, she felt the full effects of the alcohol. She told Harvey she needed to leave and drive to my house, but he insisted she wasn't in any condition to drive. He was probably right. Mom said if she couldn't drive, she would get a hotel room and go to my house in the morning. Harvey checked at the front desk and told her the hotel was fully booked due to a conference. He then invited her to rest in his room for a few hours before leaving. She was so affected by the alcohol that she needed help just to get to the elevator. Andrea paused, watching her father's reaction, but Sane remained silent, his jaw tense. Once in Harvey's room, Andrea continued, he helped her to the bed, but then things took a turn. He went from helping her to kissing her neck. Mom pushed him away, angrily telling him their relationship was over. She said she only wanted to lie down for a few hours because she felt dizzy and nearly collapsed onto the bed. Harvey was kind enough to lift her legs onto the bed and take off her shoes. She remembers him massaging her legs, but soon after, she fell asleep. Sane remained silent, his face pale as he absorbed the information, while Andrea continued. The next time Mom remembered anything, she woke up with a naked man beside her. His hand was on her chest, and he was trying to have sex with her. She pushed him off and jumped out of bed. Now sober but with a headache, she realized what had happened. Harvey had gotten her drunk and taken advantage of her while she was asleep. He tried again in the morning. She screamed, telling him she never wanted to see him again. He just laughed and said she didn't feel that way last night. Sane's face turned even paler as he listened. Andrea pressed on. Mom knew what had happened and felt ashamed for letting him take her to his room. She realized all he wanted was to get her into bed. She got dressed, freshened up, and left the hotel. She hoped to find you at home and confess everything, asking for your forgiveness. But when she arrived, she saw that you had already moved out. Mom has been consumed by guilt and shame ever since. Sane leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed by what he had just heard. Andrea continued, Mom called me afterward and told me that you hit her and threw her out. She was still confused but desperate to talk to you. When she got to my house, she was very upset, and it took her a while to tell me the whole story. I believe her, Dad. Sane looked at the table before asking, what about the protection she took from my bedside table? Did she plan to use it? She wasn't going to use it, Dad, Andrea replied. She told me she took it because she thought it would make it easier to say no. She thought it would act as a safeguard but never intended to use it. Sane shook his head. That's hard to believe. It'll take a lot to convince me. Andrea took a deep breath. Dad, Mom has started seeing a counselor. She's trying to figure out why she did what she did. The counselor suggested contacting you, but we knew you wouldn't want to participate. I've been attending the sessions with her to help her process everything. Sane was quiet for a long time before speaking. I'm not joining any counseling. Breeze made her bed. Now she has to lie in it. Andrea nodded and continued. Mom's HR department got involved. They reviewed her statement, consulted their lawyer, and decided the allegations against Harvey wouldn't hold up. It was just a case of, he said, she said. However, they forwarded her account to Harvey's HR department. Harvey admitted to having sex with Mom but claimed it was consensual. Neither company wanted to pursue legal action, but Harvey's employer decided it was inappropriate for him to have a relationship with a married woman and fired him. Sane and Andrea sat in silence for a long time. Sane struggled to process everything. He had thought time apart might help him and Breeze get back to normal, but now everything had changed. She had slept with her so-called friend, and despite Andrea's explanation, Sane couldn't shake the feeling that it might have been intentional. Unable to resolve the conflict within himself, Sane made a decision. For now, he would do nothing. He would continue his new life, avoiding Breeze. He spoke with Andrea occasionally, but she kept encouraging him to talk to his wife and work things out. Sane knew the wound would take time to heal, but divorce wasn't something he seriously considered. Instead, he focused on renovating his new home and helping his neighbors improve theirs. Over time, Sane returned to his work, buying, renovating, and selling distressed properties. He transformed the cul-de-sac, even landscaping a small island in the center to create a tranquil space for neighbors to gather. Local women soon discovered Sane's poor cooking skills, and in gratitude for his efforts, they started organizing meals for him, bringing casseroles, roasts, and other homemade dishes. One afternoon, as Sane was reviewing a spreadsheet, there was a knock on the door. Without much thought, he saved his work and opened the door. It wasn't one of his neighbors, it was Breeze. Breeze, Sane said, surprised. I wasn't expecting to see you here. How did you find me? Breeze didn't answer and instead asked, can I come in? Much of Sane's anger had faded over time. Though he was surprised by her sudden appearance, he found himself saying, please, come in. Still astonished, Sane noticed Breeze had dressed for the occasion in a simple white summer dress with matching flats. She walked in carrying several grocery bags. Where's the kitchen? She asked. Sane pointed toward the kitchen door without hesitation. Breeze walked through, placed the grocery bags on the counter, and returned to look around. It's a bit sparse, but nice. I see you've made some progress, she commented. I'm not done with all the renovations yet, but it's livable, Sane replied. Can you show me the house? Breeze asked. Of course, Sane said, leading her through the living room, down the hallway, and into each room. Finally, they reached the master bedroom. At every stop, Sane pointed out what he had already completed and what still needed attention. Breeze commented on the lack of closet space compared to their old house. Sane shrugged, saying, it's more than enough for me. I don't need much. She also noticed the smaller bed. It's the perfect size for me, Sane explained. Besides, a bigger bed would overwhelm the room. Breeze offered suggestions about curtains and carpeting. Sane often relied on her ideas when renovating homes, so he took mental notes. They stepped out through the new French doors onto the deck. Breeze admired the cozy space and remarked, this would be perfect for relaxing in the evening after dinner. I often do, Sane replied. With a glass of my favorite strong red wine, it helps me sleep. Back in the living room, Sane gathered his thoughts. His wife's unexpected visit had left him unsettled. How did you find me? He asked again. It wasn't easy, Breeze admitted. But I got some help from your colleagues at the real estate office. I drove by a few days ago and saw your car in the driveway. I thought long and hard about whether to interrupt your new life, but I needed to see you, even if just for a short time. So, I decided to come and cook you dinner. I know you're a terrible cook, so I brought everything for a meatloaf dinner. I was hoping you'd let me stay long enough to cook it and then I'd leave you alone. Sane agreed. I've got a spreadsheet to finish. I'll check on you in the kitchen in a bit. About 20 minutes later, Sane stepped into the kitchen. Breeze was busy preparing the meal. She turned to him, tears in her eyes. You really don't need my help, do you? Your refrigerator and freezer are full. I didn't find a single frozen dinner in your kitchen, she said. You're right, Sane admitted. I usually just grab one of those or a protein shake before heading out. It's such a beautiful morning, Breeze said, glancing outside. Why don't we eat on the deck? That sounds good, Sane agreed, setting the table for two. When Breeze brought out the food, Sane pulled out her chair, and she smiled. Thank you for last night and for this morning, it's the happiest I've felt in a long time, Breeze said. I feel the same way, Sane replied. Breeze took a deep breath, carefully testing the waters. She didn't want to pressure him but needed to know how he felt. "Any idea when you might want to come home?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Sane thought for a moment before answering. "I don't know if I want to come home." Breeze's face fell slightly, though she tried to hide it. His response made it clear he wasn't ready to pick up where they had left off. "Well," she said softly, "I'll wait until you're ready. In the meantime, I'd love to keep coming by on Fridays to cook for you, if that's okay." "I'd like that," Sane replied. "You were always the best cook." Breeze felt a pang at the comment, wondering if Sane only wanted her around for her cooking. But she also sensed there was more to it, he just wasn't ready to admit it yet. She decided not to rush things. The following Friday, Breeze returned. She looked stunning in a pleated pink skirt and a fitted cashmere sweater that flattered her figure. The skirt was short enough to reveal her legs, and the sweater hugged her chest. Sane greeted her at the door. "What's on the menu tonight?" he asked. "I brought marbled ribeye steaks," Breeze said, smiling. "I thought you could grill them while I make a salad with lettuce, tomatoes, avocado, and bacon. I also brought 2 bottles of red wine. Maybe we'll get tipsy enough that you'll ask me to stay again." Sane laughed, not realizing how their relationship was gradually evolving into something deeper. He still harbored lingering resentment and wasn't sure how to bring it up without ruining the evening. "We'll see how the night goes," Sane said noncommittally as he lit the grill. Breeze busied herself in the kitchen, preparing the salad while Sane poured 2 glasses of wine. He handed her one and took the other to the deck, leaving the bottle on the table. After a while, Breeze brought out the salad, and Sane started grilling the steaks. "They'll be ready in about 10 minutes, he said, turning toward her. Breeze raised her glass. "Here's to my hope that you'll let me back into your life," she said softly. The toast caught Sane off guard, and he felt a bit embarrassed, unsure how to respond. "We'll talk more later," he said, turning his attention back to the steaks. After a few awkward moments, Sane announced that the steaks were ready, and they sat down to eat. The silence lingered for a while until Sane finally spoke. "I'm sorry things ended the way they did," he said quietly. Breeze nearly choked on her food at Sane's sudden declaration. She reached out, taking his hand, and said, "Thank you. I was so afraid you thought I willingly slept with someone else and that you'd never forgive me." Sane's expression softened. "Sometimes, I think if I hadn't kicked you out, none of this would have happened." "None of this was your fault," Breeze responded, still holding his hand. "It was all mine. I let myself be charmed by a smooth-talking salesman. I'll never forgive myself for hurting you like that. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you let me." "Well," he said, lightening the mood, "lettuce is a good start." After dinner, once the dishes were cleared, Sane asked Breeze if she wanted to watch a movie. "Sure," she replied with a smile. "But this time, you pick. I know how much you love action movies." Sane laughed. "They're usually full of violence, nudity, and strong language." "Perfect," Breeze said with a grin. "I'll watch the chick flicks with my friends." Sane browsed through Netflix and finally picked an action-packed film he thought they'd both enjoy. As the movie began, Breeze returned from the bathroom, wearing her favorite rose-scented perfume. She sat close to him on the couch, so close he could feel her warmth. Without asking, she wrapped her arms around his neck and leaned into him. "I don't want either of us to sleep alone tonight," she whispered in his ear. Sane could feel his body responding to hers. Despite the unresolved tension between them, his desire for her resurfaced. "I know you haven't completely forgiven me," Breeze continued, her voice emotional. "But please, don't let that stop you from enjoying this moment." Any resistance Sane had melted away. He kissed Breeze passionately, their lips meeting in a warm embrace. He gently moved her hair aside and kissed her neck, eliciting soft sighs from her. Sane picked her up and carried her to the bedroom, laying her gently on the bed. Breeze pulled him closer as he leaned over her. As they made love, Breeze thought to herself, how could I have been so foolish to think any moment with someone else could compare to this? She arched her back, releasing months of pent-up tension, their passion reigniting again and again before they finally fell asleep in each other's arms. For Sane, it felt as though all the anger and frustration had finally dissipated. Breeze seemed more beautiful and desirable than she had been in years. The next morning, they sat together on the deck for breakfast. Breeze, radiant from the night before, took a deep breath before speaking. Sane, she said softly, I think you know how terrible I feel about everything I've done. I'll never make a mistake like that again. But we've been apart for almost 6 months. Don't you think it's time for us to live together again? Sane paused, setting his fork down and wiping his mouth with a napkin. He looked out at the bright morning sun, considering her words, before turning back to Breeze. I've thought about it, he said, and I've made a decision. Breeze's heart sank as she waited for him to explain. First, Sane continued, the old house is too big for me now. When the kids were growing up, it was perfect. But now, it's just too much. Honestly, I never really fit in with the neighbors. They're all college-educated professionals. I barely finished high school. I just don't have much in common with them. But Sane, Breeze interrupted, you've been so successful. You earn as much as they do with your renovations, and our house is one of the nicest, thanks to your work. Sane shook his head. What I'm saying is that this is my home now. This is where I want to be. These are the kinds of neighbors I want. When this house is finished, it'll be the perfect size for me. I'm not going back to the old house. Breeze's face fell, her eyes filling with sadness. Oh, Sane, that's not what I wanted to hear. She stood quickly, trying to hide her disappointment. I have to go, she said abruptly. That I in just a few minutes. Breeze gathered her things and left, leaving Sane feeling conflicted. He hadn't intended to hurt her, but deep down, he knew he didn't want to return to his old life. The new house and routine had become his refuge. For 2 weeks, Sane didn't hear from Breeze. Then, one Friday afternoon, there was a knock at his door. When he opened it, he was surprised to see Breeze standing there with 3 suitcases. I have 2 more in the car, she said, walking in and setting her luggage down. What's going on? Sane asked, confused, as he helped her with the other bags. Breeze wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him passionately. If you want to live in this house, then this is my home too, she declared. Sane stepped back, shaking his head. Breeze, you won't like living here. There's barely enough space for your things, especially your clothes. In the old house, you filled every closet. Breeze smiled softly. I gave almost everything away. What's left is in these suitcases. But you'll still need to figure out how to make a little more closet space. Sane sighed, knowing the master bedroom didn't have enough storage. He had considered knocking down a wall to expand the closet into his office, but hadn't decided yet. What about your job? Sane asked. It's a long commute from here, and traffic will make it worse. I don't have a job anymore, Breeze said calmly. I quit. Sane blinked in surprise. Why? It was still a topic of conversation in the office, and some of the salesmen were making indirect comments based on rumors, Breeze explained. Besides, you always said you earned enough for the 2 of us. Now that I'm not working, I'll find other things to do. Sane looked at her warily. Breeze, you won't want to sit around here all day. Most of the neighbors work, you'll be alone. I've thought about that, Breeze said. Maybe I'll do charity work. I have a degree in accounting and studied psychology. I even know some Spanish. I want to help broken families and abused women. But first, I need to fix our family. With that, she hugged Sane tightly and kissed him again. Sane realized she was winning him over, and he wasn't sure how to stop her. I hope you didn't give away all your sexy cocktail dresses and high heels, Sane whispered in her ear. I kept a few, Breeze replied, intrigued. Why? I was thinking we could go out for a fancy dinner once a month, maybe more, Sane said. I shouldn't mind dressing up and going dancing with a beautiful woman in a cocktail dress. Maybe even staying at a nice hotel afterward. Breeze's face lit up with joy. I'd love that, she said, kissing him passionately. Welcome home, Breeze, Sane whispered, lifting her into his arms and carrying her to the bedroom.